Today we're going to learn about parts of speech with a very brief overview. So, what do I mean by parts of speech? Alright, so here we have these words, and words are kind of like bricks. So you have this brick, it looks kind of like that. You have another brick, similar shape, but it's shaded in. It's a very colorful brick. We have another brick that's, again, same shape, but it has dots all over it. Maybe everything except the dots is filled in. And then we have another brick that's long and flat. And clearly there's something that these three bricks share. Something that this brick doesn't have. You know, might be other bricks out there like it that are colored in. But there's something about these two that separates these bricks from these bricks. And those are kind of like what the different parts of speech are for words. So, you might have one word like con, and another word like Jeff, which look very different and have very different meanings. So it would make very different houses if you built bricks out of them, but you could still fit them together and it would make sense. And that's what grammar is all about. It's the rules you use to fit these blocks together in ways that make sense. Alright, so now let's start learning about grammar and learning how to make houses. So here are the 7 parts of speech. We have nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. This is going to be a very brief introduction to each one of these. In future videos, I'm going to explain in more detail about each one of them. So look forward to those. So here we go. A noun. A noun is basically a person, like Jeff, or an intern. Intern is a person. Or we can have places. Place. Let's see. A hotel is a place. Or a named place like America is a place. And we have thing. Thing is also a noun, like computer. Or a MacBook. They're all places. Or things, sorry. So a noun is basically a person, a place, or a thing. That's the basic thing you need to remember dealing with nouns. Okay. Adjectives. I have to spell this out because it's a strange word. Adjectives. Adjectives are things that describe nouns. So you basically think of the basic structure in English, at least, is adjective plus noun. So things like blue, sky. You know, sky could be any noun. Like it could be blue background, or it could be a different adjective like red or shiny. So just remember, adjectives are things that describe nouns. That's all you really need to know about adjectives for now. And verbs. Verbs are actions. So, actions. Things like swim, run. Oh, not rum, run. Rum is a noun, it's a thing you drink. Run is a verb, it's an action. And for reasons I'll explain later, things like is and was, these are also verbs. They're called linking verbs because they link things together, like Jeff. It's cool. They link these two things together. That's subject for future videos. Remember now that is and was are also verbs. Adverbs. Adverbs, basically adjectives for verbs. You know, once nouns started getting adjectives and started having things describing them, verbs got a little bit jealous. They're like, we need adjectives too. So they made adverbs. Adverbs are things that describe verbs. They basically answer the question of how. How? So if you ran, how did you run? You ran quickly. And basically, adverbs usually end in ly, but it's not always true. There are some exceptions like friendly. Friendly is not an adverb because it describes a person, a friendly person, not describing an action. So friendly is not an adverb, but ly is the general case. Preposition basically how we talk about placement. And so it comes from pre, so before, and position. It's the words go before position. So say you're talking about a book. You're going to put the book on the table. The table is the place, and you put the book on the table. So preposition is the word that comes before the place. This is the place, and this is the word before the place. That's where the name comes from. On. So there are a couple special prepositions that we need to worry about, like of. Of usually describes possession, like video, grammar, or Jeff. It would be equivalent to Jeff's video, but here of is a preposition. And there are also a couple other sections like about. About's a little bit special, but about is a preposition. Just remember those special cases. And then conjunction. A conjunction, you can really, it's helpful to think of as conjunction, like two railroads when they intersect, they meet at a junction, just like you have two words, like Jeff, grammar, and you meet them with an and, or an or. Or you can also have some sentences, like, I like food, and I read books, and you join them together with an and, sometimes a comma, or a but, or a so. These are things that join the two separate sentences together. And the last part of speech, interjections. Interjections are both the hardest to explain and the easiest to recognize. They're most common in spoken English, not so much, so in speech, not so much in written English. So it's basically things that you have general flow of conversation, and then they interrupt the flow of conversation with a separate emotion. So things, I mean, it could be something as simple as a hem, kind of an aside, doesn't really do with the rest, doesn't really deal with the rest of the sentence. Or it could be things like hi, sorry, bye. Sometimes they're onomatopoeias, and if you don't know what onomatopoeia means, don't worry about it. These are things like that sound, are written, spelled like how they sound, like shh, or bam, things like that. And you generally won't have to worry so much about them because they're not really used in written English, and grammar is usually spoken about in regards to written English. Okay, and you may have noticed that this is 7. These are 7 parts of speech, and in a lot of introductions people talk about 8 parts of speech. That's because people generally consider a pronoun as a separate part of speech. A pronoun is basically a word that stands in for a noun. These are things like it, she, they. These stand in for nouns. They refer to a specific noun. So like she could refer to Sally, it could refer to the book, etc. These are things that refer to nouns but don't have any meaning on their own. I prefer to think of them as nouns because functionally they are exactly like nouns. So you use them just like other nouns. So I think it makes a lot more sense to think of them as nouns. So let's quickly go through an example here and point out the different parts of speech. So Sally is a noun. Other nouns in the sentence are grammar and Khan Academy and friends. So the next part which we learned about was adjectives. There are some adjectives in here. Amazing is an adjective. The is an adjective. It's a little bit of a special adjective. Just to think about how the describes Khan Academy, and the also describes Khan Academy. And then her is another adjective. Describes friends, as well as all is an adjective which describes friends. Alright, the next part of speech we learned about was verbs. Verb, learn is an action, brag is an action. These are both verbs. And then we learned about adverbs, which are things that describe verbs. Adverb quickly describes how she learned. Oh, I just missed something. It is also a noun. It's one of the special ones we learned about pronouns. But just think of it as a noun. Alright, next part of speech we learned about was a preposition. So, at is a preposition. It describes where the learning was done. And to is also a preposition. It describes where the bragging was directed. And then about is one of the special prepositions that doesn't really deal with position, but that we need to remember is a preposition. And then we learned about conjunctions, and is a conjunction because it joins the two sentences together. Conjunction. And then the last part of speech we learned about was interjections. Wow. It's an interjection. So there you have it. There are the different parts of speech, and I hope you look forward to future videos where I'll go into more depth. Thanks.